That's what they talk about. Overwhelming the system, killing the system, making sure it doesn't work. And then you'll have a bottom-up revolution. People will demand action. They will demand things. Fascists think the same way. Make it so unbearable for the average person that people will give up on the institutions and the society. This is who the fascists I've been talking about. That's who they play to. That's how they play. That's how the Marxist Islamists play. That's how they play. And then they find scapegoats to blame. It's his fault. It's the Jews. I mean, it's the Christians. I mean, it's Trump. I mean, it's capitalism. It's America. America sucks. This is who they are. This is how they handle it. So what exactly has been the Democrat Party's game plan? The Democrat Party game plan is, let us use a continuing resolution, which most people never heard of before, they call it a CR, to do maximum damage to the American people in order to get what we want and blame the Republicans. Now, what does that mean? Congress has created what it calls a continuing resolution with the emphasis on continuing. And what that means is they haven't finished their appropriation process that takes place throughout the year. So during that process, if they have to extend it because they have committee hearings and debates and they got to figure things out and they go beyond the deadline, we'll pass a continuing resolution which will not change in any respect the programs that are in place or the funding of those programs. It just extends the budget. And they've been passing these for years. The Democrats have insisted on it, the Republicans have insisted on it. So there's been this understanding, this tradition, if not a custom, that we will do those things. We will duke out, spending and certain budget items and projects and programs and so forth at the end of the process. So Chuck Schumer and the Democrats decide, no, we're going to do this now. And the Republicans are, what are you talking about? You're the ones who used to tell us there's appropriate time for everything, and the continuing resolution is not the appropriate time. That's a ministerial act, administrative act, a non-controversial act, so we can continue this funding that takes place. Democrats said, no, we're not going to do that. And originally they said, no, we're not going to do that because they wanted to take a chunk out of the president's big, better bill, where they lost, and he got, through among other things, illegal aliens being removed from Medicaid. Biden put them on Medicaid. Trump said, no. First of all, Medicaid's going to go broke. We need to set Medicaid aside for the people who are originally intended to qualify for it, American citizens. And they said, and what is this stuff about able-bodied Americans who can get Medicaid too by just not working? That you have to work 20 hours a week, and if you can't find a job, at least volunteer for 20 hours a week so we know you're doing something, because you'll have what? You'll have 22-year-olds, 28-year-olds, 33-year-olds who will never work and always get health care, as opposed to all of you who work and get health care, or those of you who've retired and you get Medicare because you contributed to Medicare. Medicaid is not an insurance program. Medicaid is a welfare program, okay? And so Biden put all those people back on Medicaid, and Trump said, no, they're off like they were before, and the illegal aliens are off. And the Democrats said, wait, those are our voters, or our future voters. We didn't open the borders for nothing. And we're opposing deportation of these people, and we want to make sure they're subsidized. And they're subsidized other ways too. The Republicans said, no, we're not going to do that. So the Democrats, they instituted the filibuster rule, and you needed 60 votes in the Senate to get a continuing resolution passed. First time ever. They were losing that spin. They were losing the public argument because nobody thinks, 80, 90% of the American people, why are we taking my tax dollars? I'm paying for my health care. Now I'm paying for the health care of some foreigner who's in the country illegally, plus people who won't get off their ass and work or at least put in 20 hours of volunteer time. Why am I paying for them and me and everybody else when the premiums are up? Well, that wasn't flying, so the Democrats came up with another argument. Just remember the sequence of events. Obamacare, the unaffordable act that I've been fighting for 12 years. And in fact, Mr. Producer, radio producer, is putting together some of the clips where I said, this can't work, it won't work, it's not going to do what Obama says. Obama said, you folks are going to save $2,500, everybody, a year on your premiums. So that didn't happen. It was never going to happen. So it's the Unaffordable Care Act and it's Obamacare. So the Democrats switched strategies, PR strategy. They said, we need to fund Obamacare with hundreds of billions of dollars in subsidies. Or 30 million people, it's not the number, but they keep throwing out, are going to lose their health care, or their premiums are going to go through the roof, where some people are going to have to pay $25,000 a year for health care. Now, that's a very interesting argument, given the fact that when the Democrats controlled Congress and Biden was president less than 12 months ago, they only extended Obamacare for a year. Now they're saying, don't wait for the year to end, you extend it now. And you, Republicans, at your initiative, you join us for hundreds of billions of dollars in subsidies of Obamacare, and we don't just want to vote, we want the outcome. In other words, they were saying, Republicans said, okay, we'll do a vote on that. And they said, no, we want the outcome guaranteed. So they're blackmailing them. Or we're going to shut down the FAA, we're going to shut down TSA, the military is not going to get paid, we're going to shut down the national parks, we're going to do this, that, if you don't give us what we want. And so now Hakeem Jeffries, who has an IQ of a kumquat, he basically is out there saying things like the Republican healthcare crisis. So it's called Obamacare. It was never going to work. They lied to us. If they wanted to massively subsidize it, they had their chance. And now it's the Republicans' fault. It's the Republican healthcare failure. So Trump said, no, we're not doing that. Republicans said, no, we're not doing that. It goes on and on and on. Bernie Sanders would burn down the country, figuratively, in order to get what he wants. He's a old Stalinist. The Mandami types, AOC and their ilk, the Marxist Islamists, they're more than happy with the country crumbling. Matter of fact, when you read not just Marx, but you read subsequent so-called scholars and propagandists who write about Marxism, they talk about destroying the system, right? That's what they talk about, overwhelming the system, killing the system, making sure it doesn't work. And then you'll have a bottom-up revolution. People will demand action. They will demand things. The fascists think the same way. Make it so unbearable for the average person that people will give up on the institutions and the society. This is who the fascists have been talking about. That's who they play to. That's how they play. That's how the Marxist Islamists play. That's how they play. And then they find scapegoats to blame. It's his fault. It's the Jews. I mean, it's the Christians. I mean, it's Trump. I mean, it's capitalism. It's America. America sucks. This is who they are. This is how they handle it.
For more, sign up for Levin TV.